What can a Century 21 agent do for you? They open your home, solve your problems and pat your dog. They provide the service of a butler and the savvy of a business tycoon. Century 21 agents. Smarter, bolder, faster.
Welcome back to the program. Joining us tonight, Charles Tarbey from Century 21 and Tom Panos from News Corp. Thanks again, gentlemen, for joining us today. All right, let's talk a little bit about investment property and how you make a successful buy. Obviously, you consider different factors when you're buying an investment property to something that perhaps you're going to live in yourself. Perhaps you shouldn't, but you probably would. So what are the first things that you should consider, Tom?
I think if you're young, you should go for capital growth, because what you want to do is be building your wealth. And I think a lot of times people, when they judge an investment, they say, oh, what's the rent it's going to give? What you want to do is probably in your younger years, look at something that's going to have good capital growth, and maybe the rent's going to be a little bit lower. As you become older, and what you want is cash flow and lifestyle, as you start getting rid of some of your assets, you probably shift a bit and you look more towards what the rent is and less on capital growth. So I think that's a very general rule, but they're the two things. It's really hard to get both. It's really hard to get great rental returns and great capital growth.
Yeah, would you agree,
Yeah,
Charles?
if you're a first-time investor, it really is, and that's the hard part. But the interest rates are so low, it's allowing people to get access to that. And that's also an area that can really throw people. I don't know about the fixed loans. It keeps moving, but I've preferred fixed loans for a while, because I know in 5 years' time what it's going to be like for me in terms of repayments if I was to go down that path.
How long can you fix for?
Well, you can fix for 5 years comfortably. The rate's slightly higher than 3 or the 2 or the 1, but the reality is that you know exactly what it's going to be. And I think that's one of the concerns. If the interest rates move slightly, and we say it a lot, if your interest rate today were 10% and it went up 0.25%, there's not much of an increase. If it's 5% and it went up 0.25%, that's a much bigger increment. And a lot of people don't factor that in. And if interest rates can go from 5 to 6, which they could do, and you've got a mortgage that might be, you know, 800,000, which is not unreal in today's market, that's a large increase. It's just that extra amount you've got to pay, plus you've got to earn it first, and you've got to pay tax on it. Yeah. And so a lot of people have got to factor that in and make sure they do. Commercial investment in strata, commercial strata in good, strong capital cities is also probably more powerful than residential. Harder to get into because of the price, riskier, because if you lose a tenant and you're not covered, it's a big amount. But the returns on some of the strata in commercial cities, particularly in Sydney right now, is remarkable. You could borrow 100% of the purchase price and still be cash flow positive on some of these floors right now.
What about overseas investors? We hear a lot about the Chinese in the market, for example, at the moment, and people even sort of try and invest with them in mind, and the thought that they might sell it on to the Chinese. What do you think that offshore investors are looking for when it comes to our property market?
Well, I'll comment as with me. With an auctioneer hat on, and what I see is they love infrastructure. They believe that having infrastructure, meaning transport and things like universities and hospitals, they have the foresight to see that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to need it to be living there and housed there, so they like that. They can picture the demand and supply curve ahead there. I think they like that. They also do like land. Because they know it's such a scarce commodity in many countries. They do like land, so they're very interested to know what the size of the blocks are. Right. So they're probably two
They're not so
metrics.
much into character and whatnot.
Well, I'm told constantly when I'm doing an auction, and if they know that the bidders are of Asian heritage, they tell me, Tom, don't go on about original charm, character and features. Don't talk about the fireplace. Don't talk about the ornate ceilings. Talk about the location.
Square footage.
It's important to make people aware that the majority of our top buyers come from the US and the UK.
Wow.
It's not China.
Not
China's number 9 on the list. It's just the appearance that it gives.
Isn't that interesting?
A lot of the buying that goes on you wouldn't even know. If they're Caucasian of appearance, you wouldn't know. But absolutely the top market buyers in the world, in Australia, are from US number 1, UK number 2. China comes number 9. But if without the investment, This is the issue. We wouldn't have all of these apartments going up, which could be in abundance, but we wouldn't have them go up.
Right.
We wouldn't have the buyers for them. We wouldn't have created all of the work and the jobs and the infrastructure if they weren't there. And this is why I say to people, if you start pushing international buyers out of the marketplace, you run a massive risk of removing a tremendous amount of work from that industry, which is a very strong part of our economy.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to ask you as well about the Reserve Bank decision that we have tomorrow. Most economists, I think all of the economists surveyed by Sky News Business, expect no change. Tomorrow we did hear the RBA governor last week tell everybody to chill out, which very much seemed to translate into no move this month. Still plenty of economists pricing in cuts early next year. What's your feeling about it, Tom?
Well, the people that you spoke to at Sky Business are probably more intelligent, got a higher IQ than what I have, so I'll go with what they're saying. But what I can say is that I think now is a time that they should be looking at a rate cut, whether it's this month or whether it's over the next couple of months. But the main concern was that the real estate market was very heated and they didn't want to do anything to affect the real estate market. That's no longer the case. I mean, in some marketplaces, as one agent said to me, Tom, we sat at an open house for 3 weeks and we had no one come to this property. So I think there is probably now enough reasons to suggest the bank should look at bringing a rate cut.
Yeah,
That's probably only because they increased it with APRA and the various...
The capital requirement rules came in.
Yeah, various requirements in place,
up.
and it caused that issue. I don't think there'll be any early Christmas present from the RBA Bank at all, but I do really think that the rates are good right now, and I never wanted them to come down. When they did come down, it caused that extra bit of zoom in the market we did not need. So it has slowed down. But the state governments will be screaming soon, Kate, because their stamp duty revenues are going to dip quite strongly. So we'll see what they do with that.
Yeah, good point. We'll be watching that. Charles, we should move on to your charts now and take a look at what's happening in each of the states. I believe we're going to start with some auction clearance.
Yeah, the clearance rates have dipped only slightly over this time last week. They were 60.1% nationally for the week, and last week was 60.8%. This time last year was 63.7%, so not a real lot of change between those. So nice and steady. Sydney was the one that really impacted the most, which everybody has been watching, and they came in at 56.3%, which is the lowest it's been for a very, very long time. Melbourne was the champion this week at 65% clearance rate, followed by Adelaide at 59.5% and Canberra at 58.6%. So all in all, some of the capital cities are still doing pretty well.
OK, let's take a look now at homes advertised for sale.
Yeah, traditionally they start to go backwards this time of the year, and we're down 0.72%. New Zealand's down 1.4%, although Wellington and Canterbury had increases. In Auckland, where they've been getting a really good strong supply of stock, that dropped significantly. So there's still plenty of stock around because not a lot of property has been sold in terms of clearance rates. So I think it's balancing out very nicely from that point of view.
OK, and rent prices, this is always interesting.
Good stuff here. Sydney's had some good, strong growth, 0.43% just in Sydney alone. And Brisbane stayed neutral this week, but Melbourne had a good growth of 0.21%. So all of the capital cities and all of the regional areas combined had a negative growth because some of them really did struggle, of 0.48%. But overall, since we started from the year, we're up 0.24%. So we're doing OK in comparison. It was going down for a while, now we're actually slightly up.
OK, you guys will obviously be... Oh, no,
the vacancy rates.
Another one.
Yeah,
we wouldn't want to miss these.
Yeah, my favourite 4 charts of the week. I dream about these. The vacancy rates for Sydney 2.5%, Melbourne 4%, and Perth really climbed heavily at 7.09%. So those 3 capital cities came in at 4.53%. So we had a climb in vacancy rates, but being in the 4s is not a bad thing.
OK, fair enough. Let's just finish off with a look forward to the weekend. Busy one for auctions, Tom?
Yeah, so every weekend up till Christmas, including the 19th, which is the last Saturday, is a full schedule. The other auctioneers I speak with, it's the same. So we're going to see pretty much the same. A lot of stock, which means that there's competition. Every house has got competition now. So if you're not priced right and you're not presented well, you've got a problem.
We're back in real estate, Kate. We're back in real estate, where buyers and sellers need to come to the party and the agent works with them to make that happen.
OK, so full throttle until year end for you as well?
I think it is, yeah. I think it is.
Yeah, OK.
Harder work, which is great.
All right. Thank you very
Thank you,
much,
Kate.
gentlemen. Thank you for coming on the program as always and talking us through all of those property moves.
Thank
We
you.
really appreciate it. And that is the show for today. I'm Kate Williams filling in for Chris Gray. Until next time, thank you for watching.
The information featured in this program is general in nature and therefore should not be relied upon. Guests appearing on the program may have commercial arrangements with some of the companies mentioned. Before making any investment, insurance or financial planning decisions, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you.